War and peas. It's interesting to trace the history of the view of military service in the churches that are associated with the Restoration movement in the United States. That's the Churches of Christ, Christian churches, and Disciples of Christ. For much of our history, like the Amish, we have been recognized by and large as pacifists. The early part of our country's history involved expansion and military action against Native Americans, Mexicans, and the Spanish. War for such reasons seemed to many Christians incompatible with their understanding of biblical teaching. Most chose instead to see to their farms and to their other livelihoods, leading quiet lives of faith, minding their own peas and cucumbers. Then came the Civil War, or war between the states, depending on your orientation on the Mason-Dixon line. The abolition of slavery at the hands of a much stronger and assertive federal government versus the right of self-determination state by state. American killing American. Brother killing brother over such high ideals. Two Christians, one in blue and the other in gray, facing each other down the barrel of a gun, ready to send the other into eternity, where their Heavenly Father would say, what exactly about that? Churches of Christ urged Christians not to serve in the military. It wasn't until the First World War, and especially the Second World War, that large numbers of members of the church saw military service as acceptable and even as a duty. The enemies, after all, weren't Christian brothers any longer, but foreign, ungodly fascists, communists, socialists, or combinations of each. In any event, if these people were allowed to dominate the world, then our freedom, especially our freedom to worship and practice our faith, was in great peril. Since the causes seemed just, we deemed military service and warfare as more acceptable than before, even necessary perhaps, and even commendable. People reasoned that Jesus didn't condemn military service. In fact, he commended the faith of the Roman centurion who had sent word to Jesus requesting a healing for his servant. Cornelius, another Roman centurion, is described in Acts chapter 10 as devout and God-fearing, such that God sends the apostle Peter to him to preach the gospel to him. Today we're told that our enemies are radical Islamists who seek to destroy our way of life and impose their religion on us all. The call to arms is to fight them there so we don't have to fight them here someday. Lost in the recruiting rhetoric, however, is one underlying reason for our conflicting interests with people in the Islamic world. Competition for continuing access to a steady supply of Persian Gulf oil. If you look closely, under the ground beneath many of our modern military conflicts, you'll find an oil pipeline somewhere. Oh, we feel justified as Christians fighting against infidels, but what about service for Sunoco? Just something to consider. I think we should honor the concept of service in any capacity. Sacrifice for one's fellow citizens is honorable and commendable. I think the challenge is to honor the warriors without glorifying war itself. Can we also recognize that the farmer who grows his peas, which are shipped to support the soldier in Kandahar, is contributing to peace in his own way? Jesus said in Matthew chapter 5 and verse 9, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God." War and peas from the heart.